After you clear your net, the next step is to secure admission in a PhD program, and almost all good universities require you to prepare a research proposal as part of the selection process. I don't need to tell you how important your research proposal is for PhD admission. PhD seats are very few, and without a good research proposal, there is very little chance that you will get admission. Apart from this, you also need to understand that your proposal is actually the first step to your PhD journey. It is here that your ideas take shape, your passion becomes persuasive, and your mind's framework turns into a structured plan. If you do not believe in your topic, no one else will. So how do you write your research proposal? I cannot give you a list of do's and don'ts because in literature, research proposals mostly do not work like that. Your research proposal should be a reflection of how well you understand your topic, where you see the gaps in the existing research, and how you plan to bridge them through your own research. If you think about it as a carefully crafted narrative, you will see that your proposal should explain why your research matters and how you intend to carry it out. You cannot just say that you want to research your chosen topic. You need to convince your interview panelists why it is worth pursuing. It is very important because the path you plan to walk on for your PhD should be clearly demonstrated by your research proposal. Your proposal will outline the scope and significance of your work. And since you are applying for a program where you need to propose your own topic, the clue is in the word itself: proposal. You are making a case. You are inviting your panelists to see the potential in your research interest and prove that it is actually a valuable addition to the academic field. In this video, I will cover everything you need to know to write a compelling research proposal, from choosing a topic that you are genuinely interested in to reviewing the existing literature of your topic, structuring your ideas, and even preparing to defend your proposal. I have got you covered. But before I begin, hello and welcome to School of Literature. My name is Monica. I am a junior research fellow at Department of English Studies, Central University of Jargon. Before I begin any explanations, I strongly recommend making notes of what I am going to tell you in this video. Do not be lazy and get your pen and paper and write down important points. You can always come back to this video whenever you feel like it, but having important points accessible in the form of notes will only help you while you are working on your proposal. Coming back to the first section, choosing a topic for your PhD is arguably the most crucial step in your research journey. It is like laying the foundation of a house. I am not saying you will never question your choice, but if done thoughtfully, you will know it is something you chose for yourself and it aligns perfectly with your interests and aspirations. You could take the easy route and pick a topic suggested by friends, acquaintances, or professors, but I would strongly recommend choosing your own. While considering others' perspective is valuable, knowing what you seek from your research is very crucial. I incorporated many suggestions from my supervisor, but none of them compromised my core vision. Before beginning your PhD, ask yourself, is this the house I want to build and live in for the next few years and beyond? While I cannot choose your topic, I can guide you through the decision-making process. Your first step is to reflect on your interests. Start by taking a good look at your department's faculty directory. See whose research areas interest you. Think back to the classes that sparked your curiosity. Which ones did you genuinely enjoy? Your academic passions can often be traced back to those memorable discussions and lectures that you had in your class. Jot down a few themes or questions that stand out. These are your initial signposts. Do not underestimate the power of conversations. No matter how talented or ambitious you are, you will not be able to do a good job on your own. Even if you have a very clear perspective, you need to challenge them. Reach out to people in your field. These could be your professors, senior PhD scholars, or even people outside your field to get a layperson's perspective. People generally love talking about their work, especially if it is their passion. A simple conversation can reveal not only potential topics but also real-world applications of your research. Be curious, ask a lot of questions, and most importantly, listen carefully. Once you have a few ideas, it is time to explore the literature. And no, I do not mean just novels and poems. In academic terms, the literature includes everything from peer-reviewed articles and books to theses, dissertations, interviews, conference proceedings, and even archival materials. As tempting as it may be to read everything, please do not do that. You can instead narrow your focus to what directly relates to your ideas. Identify the leading journals in your field and start reading abstracts. Even if you have have taken a look at just 4 or 5 journals related to your interest area, I'm sure that it will give you a solid sense of what is trending in your field and what gaps remain. You will soon come across names that appear repeatedly. These are the leading voices in your field. But here is a tip that you need to strictly follow. Just because someone is a leading researcher does not mean you have to agree with them. In fact, questioning their perspectives can open up some fascinating research avenues. Be critical, examine their methodologies and conclusions. Where do their arguments fall short? What aspects remain unexplored? Let these questions guide your thinking. Now comes the most important part, and that is finding your research questions. You do not have to map out your entire research yet. Just start small. Identify one question that excites you, something that lingers even after you have put the books down. To sharpen your focus, consider conducting a content analysis. This method involves systematically analyzing texts, identifying keywords, and observing how they are discussed across various studies. While it is often qualitative, you can also apply quantitative techniques by assigning scores to recurring themes. I think this must sound difficult, so let me give you an example. If you are interested in analyzing representations of power in Shakespeare's tragedies, you might conduct a content analysis of major academic papers and books discussing King Lear, Macbeth, and other Shakespearean tragedies. You could identify keywords like authority, betrayal, tyranny, and track how frequently they are explored across different analyses. This approach helps you spot patterns, gaps, or even conflicting perspectives and give you a clearer view of where your research can make a meaningful contribution. Here is a pro tip for this step. The last chapter of every thesis or dissertation typically contains a section called Implications for Future Research. It is not usually stated directly like this. Read the concluding section of any research work. This section is pure gold. Researchers often conclude their work by suggesting areas for further study, areas they did not have the time, resources, or scope to pursue. Scan these sections for inspiration. You are not just following in someone's footsteps, you are picking up where they left off. This is how research truly grows. When you are choosing your research topic, it should not be just about finding something impressive. In the process of finding your topic, you need to discover questions that resonate with you and hold genuine importance in your field. Always remember that your passion and belief in your research are what will convince others of its value. So you need to take your time. You need to explore widely, and you need to trust yourself to find that one question worth pursuing. Now that we have got the topic sorted, let us move to the next step, and that is reading the literature and understanding where your research fits in. Like I have already explained, reading the literature in an academic context refers to a broad range of sources. This goes beyond just books and journal articles. You need to think of it as a diverse ecosystem that includes conference proceedings, interviews, case studies, seminar notes, and even relevant documentary productions. Your job is not to passively consume this material but to actively engage with it. Every source you read has a purpose, and your task is to assess whether it achieves that purpose. The ultimate goal is clear. You need to validate the relevance, significance, and direction of your own research. Do not treat your literature review as a race to read as much as possible. You need to instead approach it like a detective gathering evidence. If you have watched Sherlock Holmes or Byomkesh Bakshi, you would know what I am talking about. Each source you engage with should provide you with something related to your research. It could be a theoretical grounding, it could be some methodological insight, or it could be gaps in knowledge that your study could address. You need to ask yourself some questions in this step. Why did the author write this? What arguments are they making? How does this source contribute to my understanding of the subject? A helpful tip here is to read abstracts of research papers first. Abstracts provide concise summaries of the study's objective, methods, and findings. They can save you hours by helping you decide whether a paper is worth a deep dive or not. You need to similarly pay attention to introductions and conclusions of the paper, as these sections often house the crux of an argument. Even if you have a photographic memory, taking notes is non-negotiable. Memory fades and details blur. Note-taking is a very important task for me as well because I have poor memory. And I'm not saying this to sound humble. Sometimes I could remember a lot, at other times, no matter how hard I try, I really cannot. Note taking has been my savior and reliable friend. You might not have as poor a memory as I have, but you also need to develop a system for recording your thoughts as you read. Whether you prefer digital notes using tools like Notion or Google Docs, handwritten journals, or a mix of both, make sure that your notes capture these important points. You need to write down key arguments and findings, methodologies and frameworks used, strengths and limitations, unanswered questions or areas for further exploration. The most important task here is to document your reactions. A few helpful questions for your documentation could be: did you agree with the author's claim? Did something challenge your understanding? Did a particular quote resonate with you? These reflections will enrich your literature review and it will add depth to your analysis. I think this step is pretty straightforward. Good research is driven by curiosity. While reading, questions will naturally arise. Why did the author choose this method? Are their conclusions well supported? What biases might be influencing their perspectives? Write these questions down. Even seemingly simple doubts at an early stage can strengthen your perspectives later. And always remember that if you encounter concepts that confuse you, that is not a sign of failure. It is an opportunity for growth. Discuss these questions with your peers, senior PhD scholars, or advisors. You do not have to do everything alone. Academic conversations often bring in new perspective and help clarify a number of uncertainties. You will likely read hundreds of sources throughout your PhD journey. Imagine trying to find a specific quote months later without a clear record. I know how frustrating this can be. Even when you are just writing your proposal, you are most likely to go through at least 10 sources. It will be really difficult to bring your perspectives if you do not remember which source a particular argument is from. To avoid this, maintain a well-structured reference management system. You can use something as advanced as Zotero or something as simple as Google Sheets. Find what suits your purpose and you are likely to use it for a really long time. I use Google Sheets for organizing all my sources and I find it to be hassle-free and excellent for this purpose. Categorize your sources by themes, methodologies, or theoretical framework. This systematic approach will save you time and energy during the writing phase. Finally, remember that your notes are not just for the present. They are a resource you will revisit at various stages of your research. Failing to document your thoughts thoroughly could mean rereading stacks of articles and books just to find a single reference. What could be even worse is that you may abandon a strong point simply because you cannot recall the source that inspired it. I conclude this section by reminding you that reading the literature is a continuous and evolving conversation with the scholars who have paved the way before you. By actively engaging, asking questions, and maintaining organized records, you are laying the groundwork for your own voice to emerge in the academic dialogue. Once you have read enough to be familiar with the literature surrounding your research problem, you are ready to write your research proposal. This stage is not just a formal requirement but a crucial step in shaping your research journey. It helps you design your research and serve as the foundation for your final thesis. If written with precision and thoughtfulness, your proposal can later be repurposed as the introductory portion of your thesis with only some minor revisions. Your written and verbal presentation should reflect a level of academic proficiency and indicate that you are ready for your research journey. A well-written proposal will guide your research, it will provide reference point to keep you aligned with your objectives, and it will prevent unnecessary diversions. Many researchers also delay choosing a title until the last moment, but I think this is a mistake. A well thought out title synthesizes everything you have read and planned and helps your mind focus on the writing task ahead. It gives you a structured approach and aids in developing a coherent narrative. You do not need to make it final at this point, but what you have to do here is to write a line on what your focus should be and what you have thought to do. You can always refine it once your proposal is ready, but you need to know what you are working on. The title of your proposal will also influence the final title of your thesis, so you need to invest time in writing it carefully. The title should be precise, driven by the research problem, and reflective of the study's core focus. Let us now look at how to structure your research proposal. Make sure that you write these down. First is introduction. Your introduction should explain your topic to someone with no prior knowledge of it. Start broad and gradually narrow down to the specifics of your research. For instance, if your proposal is about the effects of war on women in literature, begin with a general discussion of war, what it is, how scholars define it, and its broader implications. Then move to the specific focus of war's impact on women and introduce literary works that explore these themes. This approach ensures that even an uninformed reader can follow your research trajectory. Next up is your statement of the problem. This section answers the fundamental question, what do I want to research? So you must clearly define your research problem and justify its significance. Your research gap identifies the existing gaps in the literature that you have reviewed. Explain why your research is necessary and how it contributes to your field. Clearly outline what you hope to achieve through your study in aims and objectives. Your objectives should be specific, measurable, and aligned with your research problem. Be very mindful of the differences between aim and objectives. The research aim defines what the study intends to achieve, while the research objective outlines how this aim will be realized. The research aim is broad and focuses on the long-term outcomes of the study, whereas the objectives are specific, detailing the immediate and short-term steps required to achieve the aim. Typically, the research aim is expressed in a single sentence or short paragraph, while the objective should be presented as a numbered list for clarity and precision. Clearly outline what you hope to achieve through your study. Your objective should be specific and aligned with your research problem. A hypothesis is a predictive statement based on past experience and literature. It presents a given situation or trait and predicts how it will be affected by a particular factor. A well-framed hypothesis provides direction for your research. For instance, just as past experiences help us predict how a loved one might react to a certain gesture, a hypothesis is formulated based on prior studies and observations. Unlike your hypothesis, research questions do not predict outcomes but explore relationships. They should be specific enough to guide your methodology and prevent unnecessary expansion of your thesis later. A well-formulated research question is focused on a single problem or issue. It is researchable using your chosen text and review of literature. It should be feasible to answer within the time frame and practical constraints. It should also be very specific enough to answer thoroughly. At the same time, it should be complex enough to develop the answer over the space of your thesis. And lastly, it should be relevant to your field of study and/or society more broadly. The methodology section is crucial in defining how you will analyze text and construct your arguments. Your research approach should be clear, structured, and aligned with the nature of literary studies. Begin by outlining the theoretical framework that underpins your research, whether it is rooted in post-colonialism, feminism, Marxism, eco-criticism, or any other critical approach. Explain why this framework is suitable for your chosen literary works and how it will shape your interpretation. Your methodology should also specify the techniques you will employ for textual analysis. Close reading remains the foundation of literary research, where you examine language, themes, narrative structure, and stylistic device within your chosen text. You may additionally integrate intertextual analysis to compare text, archival research to examine historical context, or discourse analysis to explore power structure and ideologies within literature. If your study involves reader response criticism or reception studies, describe how you will analyze audience interpretations, whether through historical reviews, interviews, or digital discussions. Digital humanities methods such as computational textual analysis may also be relevant if your research involves tracing linguistic patterns or thematic developments across multiple texts. Ensure that your methodology is not just a list of techniques but a coherent explanation of how these approaches will help answer your research question. Show an awareness of the challenges and limitations of your chosen methods while justifying why they are the most appropriate for your study. Organize your methodology in a logical sequence and ensure it answers the fundamental question of how do I plan to research this. Research methods vary depending on the nature of the study. The most commonly used methods include Scholarship methods, which examine existing scholarly discussions on a specific author, literary work, historical, period, genre, theme, or theoretical framework. Textual analysis methods, which involve close readings of literary texts supported by relevant literary theories and contextual insights. Biographical methods, which explore an author's life through biographies, private papers, correspondence, and interviews to better understand their work and historical context. Discourse analysis method, which study language patterns to uncover underlying ideologies, power dynamics, and societal relationships within literary texts. Creative writing methods, which reimagine existing literary works, such as a retelling of a story from a minor's character perspective. Creative writing methods, which reimagine existing literary works, such as a retelling of a story from a minor character's perspectives, which is often paired with a theoretical explanation of the creative choices made. More advanced research may incorporate specialized methods such as archival methods, which involves examining documents such as letters, diaries, and manuscripts stored in special collections to gain deeper insight into an author's life or historical context. Computational methods, which use digital tools and statistical techniques to track linguistic and thematic trends in literary texts over time. Ethnographic methods, which study how people engage with literature in various settings such as book clubs, classroom, or online communities, and often using interviews and observational research. Visual methods, which include the visual elements in literary works, including illustrated text, graphic novels, and the role of typography and layout in meaning making. Regardless of the method you choose, ensure you understand their application and practical execution. Seek guidance from academic resources, consult experienced researchers, and follow institutional regulations, particularly when working with human participants or archival materials. Thoughtful selection and application of research method will enhance the credibility and depth of your study. You already know by now what a literature review is. If I sum it up in one line, it is a guided tour through the existing scholarship on your chosen topic. A literature review is not just a summary of what others have written on a topic. It is a way for you to explore the ongoing academic discussion around your subject. Think of it as a map that shows you the key ideas, debates, and perspectives that scholars have developed over time. This helps you identify areas that have been well explored and, more importantly, areas that still need more research. These gaps in existing knowledge are where your own research can make a meaningful contribution. A well-crafted literature review lays the foundation for your argument. This process involves 5 essential steps. Your first step would already be done by the time you come to write your literature review. It is gathering academic sources related to your topic. This could include journal articles, books, and even critical essays on literary works. Databases like JSTOR, Project Muse, and Google Scholar can be helpful in finding credible sources. You need to evaluate your sources. Not every article or book will be useful. Pay attention to how relevant, reliable, and recent each source is. Ask yourself every time whether a particular work contributes to your understanding of the topic, if the arguments are well supported, and how does it relate to other sources. Ask yourself every time whether a particular work contributes to your understanding of the topic, if the argument is well supported, and how does it relate to other sources. Identify key themes, debates, and gaps. As you read, look for patterns. Are scholars divided on an issue? Is there a recurring theme or approach? Are there aspects of the topic that have often been overlooked? This will help you position your own research within the larger scholarly discussion. Once you have analyzed the sources, organize your review logically. You might structure it chronologically to show how ideas have evolved, thematically to group sources by topic, or methodologically in which you could compare different research approaches. Now bring everything together in a coherent discussion. Avoid simply summarizing sources one by one. You can instead connect ideas, compare perspectives, and highlight how your research will contribute to the conversation. While not mandatory at this stage, outlining your potential chapter divisions shows preparedness. This section can evolve as your research progresses. The first chapter typically serves as the introduction, where you introduce the topic you intend to explore. This chapter sets the context for your research and presents the research problem and question. The introduction provides an overview of what you aim to achieve, which could be an exploration of a literary movement, a specific author's works, or a thematic study, for example. You can highlight the scope of your research, specifying its boundaries and what you will and you will not cover. Additionally, this chapter also includes the research objectives and research questions that will guide your entire study. Moving on to the middle chapters, these are the core of your research and their content will depend on your specific research approach. These chapters are primarily determined by the methodology you choose. Whether you opt for textual analysis, historical context, biographical approaches, or any other method, this section allows you to dive deeper into the subject matter. You will explore your chosen texts, you will explore your literary theories and review of literature, and then you will begin to form arguments or insights that support your research aim. The middle chapters may involve analyzing literary works, comparing authors, exploring themes, or even conducting surveys or interviews, depending on the methods employed. How these chapters unfold and their structure will rely entirely on the approach you take as a researcher. The final chapter will be your conclusion. It is where you wrap up your study. Here you summarize the key findings of your research, tying them back to your original research questions and objectives. The conclusion should reflect on the broader implications of your finding, discuss any limitation encountered during the research process, and suggest potential areas for future research. This chapter also provides an opportunity for you to reflect on the importance of your findings in the context of the existing body of scholarship and to propose how your research contributes to the field of English literature. In limitations, acknowledge any constraints or limitations in your study, whether it is related to methodology, data availability, or scope. Your proposal must include a bibliography even though it contains only your literature review and methodology. Ensure that all sources cited are listed according to your department's preferred citation style. For me, that is the latest edition of MLA style. Ensure that you maintain an organized bibliography from the very beginning. Now, proposal formatting could vary from one place to another, so refer to department-specific guidelines, but pay special attention to the title page, author information, headings and subheadings, quotations and citations, footnotes and endnotes, graphics and captions. Regardless of whether your proposal is a multi-chapter document or a 10-page report, it must effectively communicate three essential elements: what you want to research, why it is important, and how you plan to conduct it. Your proposal not only prepares your committee for evaluating your research, but it will also serve as a foundational document that will guide you throughout your academic journey. Defending your research proposal is an important step in your academic journey. Here you have the opportunity to showcase the hard work you have put into preparing for your research. At this point, you have already explored your field, identified a topic, reviewed relevant literature, and designed a methodology to tackle the research problem. Now it is time to present all this in front of your department's prospective supervisor or an evaluation committee. The process usually begins with an oral presentation of your proposal. It is a good idea to treat this presentation like the departmental seminars you might have attended. This will help you gauge the structure and tone. You will be presenting the research problem, explaining its significance, and discussing the methodology you plan to use. Even though you will not be presenting any data at this stage, you still need to clearly articulate your research goals, the rationale behind your topic, and how you intend to approach your study. Before you begin, it is essential to know how much time you will have for the presentation. You could get anything from 10 to 20 minutes for the initial presentation without interruption. This gives you enough time to go through your content smoothly without being sidetracked by questions. Make sure to confirm the time frame with your seniors or committee members so you can plan your presentation accordingly. Remember that it is your job to control the flow of information, so try to pace yourself in a way that keeps the attention on your topic and the relevance of your proposed research. Once you have finished your presentation, the committee will ask questions and request clarifications. You may also receive feedback that requires revisions. It is important to be prepared for this and to bring a notepad and pen with you to jot down any suggestions or revisions the committee members recommend. Take note of everything discussed, as these revisions will be crucial to refining your proposal. Once you have taken an admission, your advisor might want to meet with you to go over the feedback in more detail. It is okay to take a moment to decompress, but make sure to revise your proposal promptly so that you do not forget the nuances of the changes. If the committee suggests additional reading or references, be sure to complete that task and show the revised section to your supervisor later. They can help guide you through any further adjustments. You can additionally find out if the committee expects to receive a copy of the updated proposal. As we wrap up this video, I think I need to talk about a few important tips for selecting the right supervisor for your research journey. While it is tempting to choose someone you get along with or find particularly pleasant, remember that your relationship with your advisor is rooted in collaboration and not just familiarity. It is crucial to select someone whose expertise aligns with your topic and research needs, even if their personality might not be a perfect match with you. Working with a supervisor who challenges you even in difficult moments will prepare you for the collaborative dynamics you will encounter throughout your academic career. After all, you will not always be able to choose your colleagues later in life, but learning to navigate different working styles now can make future collaborations much smoother. That said, even the best supervisors could have certain limitations in their knowledge, especially when your research spans multiple areas. It is important to build a well-rounded committee. While your advisor may excel in one specific facet of your research, a diverse committee can bring complementary expertise that helps fill in the gaps. This broad perspective will strengthen your work and ensure that all aspects of your thesis are well supported. When the time comes to defend your proposal, remember to stay calm and collected. You do not need to rush your initial presentation. Take your time to explain your research carefully and do not forget to breathe. It might sound simple, but it is easy to forget in the moment. Having a water bottle nearby is also a good idea. Nothing is more distracting than a dry throat during a big presentation. If you are nervous about fidgeting, keep a pen or a small object nearby to help steady your hands. And most importantly, try to enjoy the process. You are getting the chance to share your passion and idea in front of a learned audience, so embrace the opportunity to talk about something you love. During the discussion period, listen carefully to the questions and answer concisely. If you do not know the answer to something, do not feel pressured to make one up. It is okay to say, that is an interesting question and I'll have to look into it. Stay calm, even if the question feels intimidating. The purpose of this meeting is to explain your research plan, what you want to study, why it is important, and how you intend to approach it. Stick to that focus and the committee will do the same. Finally, keep in mind the ethical considerations that come with research. This includes proper citation practices, avoiding plagiarism, and ensuring the integrity of your research. It is essential to maintain high ethical standards, not just for the credibility of your work, but also for the academic community as a whole. I wish you all the best and hope you get what you have been working so hard for. I'll see you super soon in my next video. Till then, keep reading and keep learning.